Oh, Bob's got yips, like that catcher I used to boo. Hilarious.
Can I get a burger?
Ooh, geez, I don't know. Can he, Bob?
Yip, 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 yip.
Bob's Burgers, one of the most iconically rising animated TV shows in popularity all throughout the years, and what really sets it apart from the Family Guys and American Dads of the animated TV family industry is its down-to-earth, appealable, true slice of family wackiness and misadventure theme that the shows has to it, just in a more grounded, realistic way. That, in general, is a very uncommon trope in cartoon media overall. However, often, reality is stranger than fiction, especially in the era of the 2020s as we know it, and with it, Bob's arch nemesis in the series, Jimmy Pesto, but more specifically, centered around the main actor who plays Jimmy Pesto, or who did play Jimmy Pesto I should say, Jay Johnston. And that brings us into the discussion of this video, as we discuss the Bob's Burgers actor who was arrested. Airing on the day of January 9th of 2011, the Bob's Burgers TV series had begun, and to a notable praise, with Season 1 getting a tomato meter, or reviewer rating of 73%, at an audience score of 82%. So, for a pilot season, really good, all things considered. But, in the pilot episode of Bob's Burgers, called Human Flesh, the very first episode of the entire series, where we were all introduced to the cast of Bob's Burgers, and not just the main cast of the Belcher family, being Bob, Linda, Jean, Tina, and Louise, but the most pivotal characters of the episode, such as Hugo and his quietly likable partner Ron, and more, the odd mortician who works right next to the Bob's Burgers establishment. And following the airing of this pilot episode, the Bob's Burgers TV series was greenlit for an entire season, being Season 1. And as the Bob's Burgers TV series progresses throughout Season 1, come Season 1 Episode 10, we are finally directly revealed to Bob's longtime rival and competitor, Jimmy Pesto, with the episode about Bob's landlord, Mr. Fishoder, warning that Bob's longtime business rival across the street, Jimmy Pesto, wanting to build a gift shop at the current location of the Bob's Burgers restaurant, where in turn, Bob and the Belcher family must figure out a way to pay this month's rent to make sure that this does not happen. Only problem is, time and time again in the past, Bob has often been late on paying rent. However, come time to pay rent, things do not go according, such as Bob's family betraying him when he needs them the most, and this would eventually transpire into a fight between Bob and Jimmy Pesto, when Bob goes crazy and puts on the burger suit to attempt to give out his samples at the Jimmy Pesto's Pizzeria restaurant in an attempt to get the lost customers Jimmy Pesto took from him. But regardless, at the end of the episode, all things work out as Mr. Fishoder releases Bob's rent, with Mr. Fishoder saying Bob doesn't care about the money, but the craft of making burgers. But unsurprisingly, Bob cares about both. Nevertheless, Bob manages to not have his burger restaurant turned into a gift shop, and Jimmy Pesto is ultimately embarrassed by his kids at the end of the episode for their weird and odd actions, and with it, the beginning of who was Bob's greatest and main rival in the Bob's Burger TV series for over 10 years. And within these 10 seasons, both Jimmy and Bob would have quite the history together, not always for the worse, such as in Season 11, Episode 10, called Yacht You're Nice, where the Belcher family gets an unexpected invitation to cater the Glen Church Yacht Club's annual holiday boat parade. We're following, with some antics involving Bob and Jimmy. At the end of the episode, Jimmy admits being the unknown inviter for Bob to cater the holiday boat party, cause, as Jimmy somewhat said, he thought Bob's food was good. So it's clear that Bob and Jimmy, despite their parenting, restaurant, and overall different ideals compared to each other, have a somewhat mutual respect for one another that is once in a while shown in the series, and even outside of the show, with it often being said that Jay Johnston, an actor of Bob, John Benjamin, were said to be really good friends with each other outside of the Bob's Burgers TV series. However, with it, around the time of the release of the Yacht You're Nice episode, on December 13th of 2020, I'm sure we all remember what the year 2020 had in store for us, such as COVID-19, riots, that in one part in an attempt to revise police reform across the USA, and others, just to cause chaos, and, most notably, at the end of 2020, the 2020 election, the most controversial election that I'm sure we will all see in our lifetimes, for now at least. But regardless, after Joe Biden had officially won the election days after it had started, one side of the political hemisphere did not take it too well, and the group that was showing the most outrage towards these results were Trump supporters for a multitude of controversial reasons, but a bit too controversial for YouTube to talk about, and the story of the entirety of the 2020 election, just in general, is a very controversial and long story that is a bit off topic for this video. Regardless, after a couple months of court, media, and public controversy throughout the November to December of 2020 time era, on the day of January 6th of 2021, a protest between 10,000 to 30,000 people were in attendance, where the protest was all to dispute the electoral votes of what was given towards Joe Biden. However, as time passed, as it would soon be revealed, the large public of at least over 10,000 people, when former Vice President Mike Pence, inside Capitol Hill, had confirmed the 270 needed electoral votes for Joe Biden. After the large crowd had discovered of the results, the day of January 6th would go down in history to be known as one of the most controversial days in United States history.
A stunning scene at the heart of American democracy. The U.S. Capitol overrun, under siege. Pro-Trump extremists storming inside, flooding the halls, breaching the floor of the House of Representatives and the Senate.
Chaos, violence, lawmakers under lockdown.
Protesters are in the building.
Thank you.
Inspired by false claims like this.
This year, they rigged an election. They rigged it like they've never rigged an election before.
The certification of his defeat interrupted. The United States, Canada, countries around the world left stunned.
Our democracy is under unprecedented assault.
As it would be revealed, to the shock of not just the United States, but the world as we know it, the January 6th riots was a day in arguably world history that will forever be known as one of the most darkest days in history, and with it, hundreds of thousands of people involved in the media called insurrection, and with a countless amount of pictures, videos, and media overall to look into the incident, the FBI, along with local, state, and federal authorities, got to work to understand and figure out who was connected to the Jan 6 attack. Were soon following, multiple suspects were identified and arrested in connection with the attack, with some of the rioters identified as Horns Guy / QAnon Shaman, or later identified as Jacob Chansley, and with a multitude of other suspects, even to this year in 2023, still being investigated and hunted for. I think it's clear to say that January 6th of 2021 was a day of true infamy that even to this year still affects even the world as we know it. And with just the sheer amount of people at the rally gone extremely wrong, the small capital of Washington and DC, in lots of respects, it was only destined to go wrong. But in June of 2023, around 2.5 years after the attack had occurred, a man was seen holding up what was seemingly to be a phone, wearing a green jacket on the day of the riots. And you might be asking, what does this one lone person, not even wearing Trump gear, have to do with the attack, in this video for this matter? Well, for that, we need to go to Bob's Burgers Season 12, airing from the September 26th of 2021 to May 22nd of 2022 timeframe, when longtime rival of Bob Belcher, Jimmy Pesto, was not seen as much in Season 12 of Bob's Burgers, despite him in seasons past playing such a critical role in being foe and in friend to the Belcher family. And come May 27th of 2022, the Bob's Burgers movie would be released to the United States. However, what was so strange for the movie, and even Season 12 of Bob's Burgers for the matter, is just the overall lack of the main antagonist in the series, Jimmy Pesto. Well, as it would soon be revealed, rumors and sightings of voice actor Jay Johnston reportedly being at the Capitol and participating in the January 6 riots being reported. And when this was revealed, the Fox Broadcasting Company got involved in the scandal and suspended Jay Johnston on these allegations, where in turn, the middle of the Bob's Burgers Season 12 and the Bob's Burgers movie, the Fox company, to further themselves upon the potentially extremely controversial situation, decided to not really acknowledge Jimmy Pesto involving Jay Johnston, only really limiting him to a speechless background character. and even the promotional pictures and trailers for the movie wasn't even seen in any of the promotional material, for that matter. However, come June of 2023, with investigation from the FBI, they were indeed able to confirm that voice actor Jay Johnston was indeed at the Capitol on the day of January 6th of 2021, where it was soon reported from the FBI that actor Jay Johnston was a part of the mob on the West Plaza of the Capitol, with it being reported, according to the Justice Department, that Johnston, along with the fellow rioters, they had entered the tunnels of the Capitol and had reportedly stolen a riot shield to further fight back against law enforcement at the Capitol, where it was also reported as well that the fellow rioters were in the Capitol with chants and pushback against the officers. Johnston was in the middle of the rioters, contributing to the overall chaos on the day of January 6th of 2021, where it was soon reported how the FBI had identified Johnston. All the way back in March of 2021, the FBI had sent all associated suspects pictures related to January 6th, and one of them so happened to be Johnston, where soon following, lawyer associated with Johnston had informed the FBI to identify him, as well as that 3 people who know Johnston reported to corroborate his identity, and with text messages of Johnston reportedly being at the Capitol, further built a case against Johnston and his involvement on January 6th, where in turn, the negative media attention around this point associated with the riot did not help Johnston's overall case. And with an over 2.5-year time frame between the day of January 6th and June 2023 building a case against Johnston, where finally, come June 7th of 2023, it was reported that Jay Johnston was being arrested in connection to the January 6th attack, where it was as well reported that in California, Johnston had finally been arrested and faces felony charges of obstruction of officers during the civil disorder, as well as other misdemeanor charges, after reportedly Johnston turning himself in Los Angeles. With things so bad for Johnston, by this point, efforts to reach an attorney for Johnston was unsuccessful, just to put into preface on how bad things were for him by this point, as well as that the Bob's Burgers TV series was entering its 4th season as the time of 2023, and with it, by this point, the Bob's Burgers crew couldn't just ignore the Belcher family's greatest rival. So with it, reports of a new replacement for the Jimmy Pesto character had started, and with it, a voice actor known as Ezra Buza went to replace Jimmy Pesto as the new voice actor for the role. And as for actor Jay Johnston, following his arrest and charges involving January 6th, has gone dark out of the public hemisphere with a likely in shame and a PR move to keep his personal life, personal, as well as another way to start or save his voice acting career, with him being able to slip out of the public image and possibly playing or making into another movies or TV shows later on down the road. But that, for now, is just speculation. Regardless, with Johnston's last role in media from the movie called Winged Dad in 2022, it definitely is something really crazy, all things considered, that just being in the wrong place at the wrong time can completely destroy the career of someone. But when you consider the fact that, political ideals aside, what Jay Johnston did on the day of January 6th of 2021 was definitely a very unneeded and a major disrespect to law enforcement and the USA as a whole. So there you have it, the Bob's Burgers actor who was arrested. All things considered, the 2020 to 2021 era of history was a crazy and unforgettable time to the world as a whole, and the story of actor Jay Johnston, all things considered, was just another under how fucking crazy the early 2020s have, and in some respects, still are. But with that, I've been Skipper's son, and I hope you all have a great day.